Hey, I'm Steve Conte, and you're watching Life Minute TV.
Renowned guitarist, singer-songwriter Steve Conte has been in the New York music scene a long time. From his gig as the lead guitarist for the reformed New York Dolls to collabs with everyone from Eric Burdon of The Animals to Billy Squier, even a stint as Paul Simon's rehearsal vocalist. He gained global acclaim through his work with Japanese composer and artist Yoko Kanno, doing soundtracks for anime series.
I walk in the rain.
Now he's just released his second solo album, The Concrete Jangle, 10 tracks of what he describes as 60s meets 80s power pops about life. Conte plays a multitude of guitars and other instruments and brings a bunch of his famous music friends in on the action too, like XTC's Andy Partridge, who co-wrote and produced the record, Marshall Crenshaw, Ultravox's Steve Lillywhite, Sex Pistols' Glen Matlock, Mott The Hoople's Ian Hunter, Sopranos actor Michael Imperioli, even his brother and two sons sing backing vocals. This latest project is clearly a labor of love. This is a Life Minute with Steve Conte.
It's a jangly sort of power pop rock and soul record with a little bit of psychedelia in it. Get to show my Beatles side, which has been in my blood since I started writing songs at 10 years old.
And 10 tracks, and 5 of them, you had some help, right?
Yes, I had some help with my hero, Andy Partridge of XTC, who was a genius songwriter. He's up there with, my top 10. Lennon, McCartney, Jagger and Richards, Townsend, and, Andy's right up there with them.
Wow.
So it was amazing getting to work with him.
How did that come to be? Have you been friends? Or?
We had some mutual friends. I had a guitar maker who built him a guitar as well. And so that guitar maker gave him one of my records, and he really liked it. Oh. And then I became friends with Steve Lillywhite, who's a big producer. He produced quite a few XTC records. Also produced the Stones, U2, Dave Matthews. One day, Steve and I were chatting on Twitter, and the subject of XTC came up, and he said, "Oh, Andy's on Twitter. We should bring him into this conversation." And next thing I know, Andy is tweeting with me. I was going through his town on tour, Swindon, England, and he said, "I hear that you're coming to my town. I'll buy you lunch." But I tell you why, because he said, "You stole my dream gig, guitar player in the New York Dolls."
Oh, wow.
So apparently he wanted to be in the New York Dolls when he was a youngster, and I had no idea about that.
All right, so 10 tracks. Tell us about your 5 tracks.
The tracks that I wrote without Andy?
Yeah.
Well, I really had to up my game because, writing with one of the greatest songwriters, living songwriters, I really honestly believe that. I had to bring my A game. So I picked some of my more melodious, Beatle-y kind of things that would go along with the 5 songs that Andy and I wrote. And actually, when I played them for Andy, I played Andy the whole record, and he went, "Hey, I really like that song. Decomposing a Song for You." I have one of my titles.
I'm decomposing a song for you.
And he said, "How come I never heard that?" I said, "Well, it was already done. I didn't bring it to him because when we started writing, we wrote everything on Zoom. So because he was in England, I was in the Bronx, I would go to the Zoom session with at least 2 or 3 ideas. We didn't want to just be sitting there on the computer. Well, what do you want to do? Yeah, I brought a bunch of ideas, and he had a bunch of ideas, and we combined them. But with the 5 songs I wrote without him, I think stand up pretty good.
And you play a lot of instruments on it too, right? Not just the guitar.
Yeah, I play
Tell us
guitar, I play mandolin, I play keyboards, I play some piano, some B3 organs, some mellotrons, some strings. I mean, it's amazing what you can do with digital recording equipment. I mean, it's a very analog sounding record. I mean, it sounds like it could have been made in 1973. And, I'm not a real keyboard player, so I could do it and make mistakes and then fix it. And, But I had some proper keyboard players too who play with me. My friends Rob Schwimmer, who played with Simon and Garfunkel. Tons of other people. Andrew Hollander, who co-produced the album with me. Mark Stewart on cello. Chris Anderson on trumpet. And I think pretty much all the vocals are me, except I have my latest single called We Like It, where I have about 60 singers on it.
Yes, I saw that.
Including Ian Hunter and Marshall Crenshaw and Danko Jones, and Glen Matlock from the Sex Pistols, and
Michael Imperioli.
Michael Imperioli from the Sopranos, of course. And, I just basically, went to my phone book, and I said, what could I get? Because the song, it's about a politician making all these crazy promises to people. And I wanted like all kinds of different people. I just went through my book and I said, who would be good for this? And, I got 60 people.
You did good.
And I'm doing a video now. And quite a few of those people sent me clips for the video as well.
And what about the 2 videos that you have out now?
So I have Girl with No Name, which is one of my songs. We filmed it right in Times Square, a lot of it. And then I have this company, these guys in England or Scotland rather, that do all these crazy post-production graphics, digital stuff, and it's amazing. So I give them the film, and then they do their magic on it and put lyrics to it. And it's, floating across the screen. It's really cool. And then the first one, 4th of July, was one of the Andy Partridge co-writes.
4th of July, 4th of July, spark in your eye, make the sky like a fly on this time of day. Kiss me.
That was done with the same team of guys. Modern technology, you can film this stuff on green screen and then put yourself anywhere you want.
What drives you creatively?
Music. I'm one of those guys where I'm a singer, I'm a songwriter, and I'm a musician. I mean, a lot of people are one or the other. I foolishly tried to master all 3 of those things. Songwriting, each one is a whole lifetime's worth of work. I set my goals high early on, so I wanted to be a songwriter like Lennon and McCartney. I wanted to be a singer like Paul Rodgers or Rod Stewart. I wanted to be a guitar player like Jeff Beck or Jimi Hendrix. I came in somewhere, in between all that. So, not too many lead singer, lead guitar player, songwriters that I can think of out there. Mark Knopfler, Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton. I don't really know who else.
So you always knew you wanted to do this?
Yes.
From a young age. How old were you?
I heard the Beatles' Revolver when I was 6, and I was just fascinated. But I wanted to be a drummer, so I was a drummer first.
Wow. Oh boy.
I wanted to be Ringo. My brother was a guitar player, and within a couple of years, I think, I was about 11, I picked up his guitar and I just discovered I could write songs, not even knowing what I was doing. So I said, I better switch. And then I became really good on guitar, and he switched to bass. And the 2 of us, he plays in my whole record, John, my brother John. Yeah, he's an amazing bass player. Our first album we recorded in the family living room when I was 11, he was 10. We both played drums and guitar. We switched off. We wrote all the songs. And I designed all the album covers. I would draw the cover art. And so
That's so cute.
lifelong obsession.
Did you ever have lessons?
Guitar lessons?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we both took guitar lessons from the same person. But in the beginning, it was like, reading the little, Mary Had a Little Lamb out of the book. Really boring. And then one day I learned Johnny Be Good, the solo from Chuck Berry, and that was it. I never went back to another, lesson out of a book again. And then 20 years later, I actually got to play with Chuck Berry a whole night.
Love is funny, or it's sad, or it's quiet, or it's mad.
And your mom's a jazz singer?
My mom's a jazz singer, yes,
So-
Rosemary County. Yeah.
Right. So how did she feel about you guys going into this?
Oh, well, she used to talk about have something to fall back on, but I said, but you didn't, Mom, because, she raised 4 kids, a single parent with a, singing job. So I thought, well, it's doable, right? I don't have any kids. I can get out there and do this. So I never gave it a second thought, really.
And then how did you end up with what happened from there? Into the Near Dolls.
Between
there.
between ages 10 and when I came to the city, I played with ton of bands. I toured, through the 80s and 90s. I had my own band, Company of Wolves. We were signed to Mercury Records with, an original band of my songs and co-written with the singer, Keith. I toured with Blood, Sweat and Tears, the jazz rock band. I worked with all kinds of people, Billy Squier, Paul Simon. That was a crazy gig. I was Paul Simon's stunt vocalist for rehearsals. When Paul didn't want to sing, it was me. Willie DeVille was another one from Mink DeVille. And then right after I played with Willie, I got the call from David Johansen saying, I'm putting the Dolls back together for one show. Do you want to do this? I said, I got your name from, I asked a couple people. And they all said, don't call anyone else, call Conte. So we met, we had lunch, and didn't even play no music, and he gave me the gig.
Oh, that's something. What was that like?
The first gig, we played Royal Festival Hall in London, and it was Chrissie Hynde and Bob Geldof and Shane MacGowan and Mick Jones from The Clash, and everybody was like knocking on the dressing room door, just fawning over us. I didn't know what to expect, They were like, you really, filled Johnny Thunders' shoes. I mean, I wasn't a Johnny Thunders fan. He's the original guitar player for the Dolls that died. But I guess, I have the Italian nose, hair, and not nose hair, but nose and hair. And I guess it looked right. And I had used similar guitars and amps to him and kind of play hard if I have to. So it worked well.
That's interesting that you weren't a fan, but
Yeah, I mean, to me, Johnny Thunders was a combination of Chuck Berry and Keith Richards, who were two of my favorites too. And then I got into a lot of like jazzier guys. I got into Wes Montgomery and John Scofield and all, Jeff Beck and John McLaughlin and all these, kind of crazy jazz fusion. And, I went to school and I studied with, real jazz pros. But then, when you get out and you get back into the real world, I've always loved writing songs and singing and having my hair long and, so I wasn't going to put a suit on and go play jazz, but it's a commitment to jazz, I went back to listening to what I grew up loving. Beatles, blues. Jay Giles' band was one of my favorites growing up too. So I went back to all that early, really simple stuff and just kind of peeled back all the education that I got,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you sure got a lot. Very eclectic.
I think it's my best album ever. Not just because of writing with Andy, but because that elevated my writing too. I
To hear more of this interview, visit our podcast, Life Minute TV, on iTunes and all streaming podcast platforms.